Welcome back to the VSOW, not a podcast, but a YouTube channel.
Always a pleasure.
Today we're taking a deep dive into something pretty fascinating.
Hmm.
We've got this collection of predictions about the year 2025.
Okay.
But here's the twist.
Right.
These predictions were made in 1925.
Wow, a century ago.
Exactly.
So we're basically looking into a time capsule of how people back then imagined our present.
Exactly. And, it's really interesting to see what they got right, what they got wrong.
Oh, absolutely. It reveals a lot about their hopes, fears, and how they viewed the trajectory of technology and society.
Well, let's jump right in.
Sounds good.
One name that keeps popping up in these predictions is Archibald Lowe.
Ah, yes. The British scientist.
Yeah, he seems to have got a pretty good grasp of where technology was headed.
He did. Some of his predictions were remarkably accurate.
Like what?
Well, for starters, he foresaw the rise of television.
No way.
Way back in 1925.
So he predicted that little box that's basically in every home now?
He did. And that's not all. He also predicted wireless banking.
Interesting.
Think about it. We do most of our banking online now.
True. And we take it for granted.
Exactly. And he even predicted radio alarm clocks.
The bane of my existence some mornings.
But still a pretty accurate prediction from 100 years ago.
Absolutely. So he nailed a lot of the everyday technologies.
He did. But what's even more impressive is his prediction of synchronized clocks and watches.
Using radio signals.
Exactly. He basically envisioned a rudimentary form of GPS technology and network time synchronization long before those concepts even existed.
That's incredible. It really shows a deep understanding of how wireless communication could revolutionize our lives.
And he even predicted advanced airplanes taking off from city rooftops.
Like flying taxis.
Sort of, while that hasn't fully materialized in the way he might have imagined.
Not yet, at least.
Right. But the underlying desire for efficient urban transportation is certainly relevant today.
Especially with the growing concerns about traffic congestion and pollution in cities.
Exactly. So even if his vision of rooftop airplanes hasn't come true, his prediction speaks to a fundamental challenge that we're still grappling with.
It's amazing how some of these predictions, while not entirely accurate, still capture the essence of the issues we face today.
Absolutely. It shows that certain human desires and challenges transcend time.
Now, there are some of his predictions that are a little harder to decipher, like breakfast tubes and automatic sleep beds.
Those are definitely more open to interpretation.
What do you think he had in mind?
It's hard to say for sure, but they likely reflect the fascination with automation and convenience that was emerging in the early 20th century.
So the breakfast tubes could be some kind of early concept for meal replacements or on-the-go breakfast options.
Perhaps. They were already looking for ways to make meals quicker and more efficient.
And the automatic sleep beds. Maybe he was envisioning something like adjustable beds or smart mattresses that monitor your sleep patterns.
It's possible. I mean, we do have those things now.
Yeah, and they're becoming increasingly popular.
So in a way, he anticipated that desire for comfort and personalized sleep experiences.
It's interesting how those desires have manifested in our current technology.
It seems like the pursuit of convenience and comfort is a constant driver of innovation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But convenience wasn't the only thing on their minds.
No, there were also predictions about how technology would revolutionize daily life, especially in the realm of household chores.
Oh yeah, they imagined a future where electrical devices would handle all the tedious tasks.
Like laundry, cooking, cleaning?
Basically freeing up time for other pursuits.
Exactly. Did they get it right? Did technology simplify our lives as much as they anticipated?
I mean, in some ways, they were spot on.
Think about how much easier tasks like laundry and cooking have become.
We have washing machines, dryers, dishwashers, all sorts of appliances that save us time and effort.
Not to mention the internet and smartphones, which have revolutionized communication and access to information.
True. But I also think it's important to acknowledge that technology has introduced its own set of complexities and challenges.
It's a double-edged sword, as they say.
While it's made many aspects of life easier, it's also created new demands on our time and attention.
The constant barrage of information, the pressure to stay connected, it can be overwhelming.
It definitely can. And finding that balance between harnessing the benefits of technology without becoming consumed by it is a challenge we're still facing.
It's an ongoing conversation, and one that I think will continue to evolve as technology continues to advance.
Now, shifting gears a bit away from the purely technological coast, there were also a lot of predictions about how society itself would evolve by 2025.
Oh yeah, they had some interesting thoughts on that.
One prediction that stands out is the anticipation of women playing a larger role in scientific advancements.
Based on what they call the accelerated development of women.
Now, that's a term that might raise some eyebrows today.
It definitely reflects the evolving but still limited understanding of gender roles and capabilities in the early 20th century.
But it's interesting to see that this conversation about women's potential in STEM fields was already happening nearly a century ago.
It was. And while we've certainly seen progress in terms of representation in those fields, there's still work to be done.
It highlights the long and often challenging road towards achieving true equality.
Absolutely. And it reminds us that progress is rarely linear.
Now, another societal prediction that caught my attention was the idea that medical advancements would lead to significantly extended lifespans.
Some even went as far as predicting immortality.
The quest for longevity is a tale as old as time.
And in the early 20th century, with the rapid advancements in medicine and science, those hopes and dreams really took flight.
But while we haven't quite achieved immortality, we have made significant strides in healthcare and increased average life expectancy.
That's true. We're living longer and healthier lives than ever before.
But it also raises questions about the quality of those extended years.
Right. It's not just about living longer, but about living well, both physically and mentally.
And speaking of well-being, there are also predictions about the potential downsides of all this technological advancement.
What they might call the dark side of progress.
Some foresaw a future where all this increased leisure time brought about by technology might actually lead to boredom and a longing for simpler times.
It's a thought-provoking idea, especially in our current age of constant stimulation and information overload.
It seems like even back then, they were starting to grapple with the potential pitfalls of a world increasingly dominated by technology.
They understood that while it offered incredible benefits, it also had the power to reshape our lives in ways we might not always anticipate.
Now that brings us to the realm of global power dynamics.
Ah, yes. The predictions about how the world order would shift and change by 2025.
They offer a unique perspective on the geopolitical anxieties and aspirations of the time.
It's a fascinating window into how they viewed the world and what they imagined the future might hold.
So let's delve into those predictions next and see what they got right and where their visions diverge from the reality we're experiencing today.
Sounds like a plan. When we look at these predictions about global power dynamics from 1925, it's striking how much they reflect the context of that time. The world was still grappling with the aftermath of World War I. There was a sense of uncertainty about the future.
So those anxieties would definitely shape how they saw the world in 2025. What kind of world order did they envision?
Well, one prominent voice was H.G. Wells.
The science fiction author?
Yeah, he predicted a world dominated by three major power blocks.
Okay.
The USA, a united Europe, and China.
A multipolar world order.
Hmm.
That's not entirely off the mark. Considering how global power is shaping up today, we're seeing the rise of China as a major economic and political force, and the European Union, while facing its own challenges, is still a significant player.
It's interesting how Wells accurately anticipated the rise of those powers, even if the specific details of their influence differ from what he envisioned.
So he got the general trend, right?
He did. It suggests a keen understanding of the underlying economic and political trends that were already at play back then.
But not everyone agreed with Wells's vision of a multipolar world.
True Irish physicist E. Fournier d'Alba went a step further.
How so?
He predicted a single world government with one universal language.
Wow, that's a bold prediction.
It is. It reflects a more utopian vision, perhaps influenced by the devastation of World War I and a desire for a more peaceful and unified world.
While a single world government seems highly unlikely given the complexities of global politics and cultural diversity, d'Alba's prediction does speak to the enduring human aspiration for global cooperation and understanding.
Exactly. Even in the face of global turmoil, there's always that yearning for a better future.
A world where conflict and division are replaced by unity and collaboration.
Precisely. Then we have Raul Strachan, an Armenian historian.
Okay.
He made a bold prediction about San Francisco.
Really? What about it?
He predicted it would become the world's most influential city by 2025.
Wow. Why San Francisco?
He believed the Pacific Ocean would become increasingly important and that San Francisco would be at the center of that shift.
Interesting. While San Francisco is certainly a global hub for technology and innovation, it hasn't quite achieved that level of dominance.
It seems he might have overestimated San Francisco's specific role in this shift, but his prediction does highlight the shifting economic and geopolitical landscape of the early 20th century.
The Pacific Rim was becoming increasingly important, and he recognized that trend.
Exactly. Even if the specifics were off, his prediction points to a broader recognition of the Pacific region's growing significance.
It's fascinating how these predictions, even the ones that miss the mark, offer valuable insights into the historical context in which they were made.
Absolutely. They allow us to understand how people in the past perceived the world and what hopes and anxieties shaped their view of the future.
They're like little windows into the past.
Exactly. And they remind us that predictions aren't just about foretelling the future, but also about understanding the present.
Okay, so let's move on to some of the more specific and perhaps more outlandish predictions that captured the imagination back in 1925.
Sounds good. Let's see what else they came up with.
Well, there were some interesting thoughts about beauty standards, for example.
Oh, yeah. American psychologist Albert E. Wiggum expressed concern about the decline of American beauty over the next century.
The decline of American beauty.
Yeah, he believed that homely, dull people were having more children than their attractive counterparts.
And that would lead to a gradual decrease in aesthetic appeal.
Precisely. He even jokingly remarked that this decline wasn't apparent yet, especially here in Brooklyn, where he was giving a lecture.
It's a rather provocative statement, to say the least. But it does reflect some of the social anxieties of the time, particularly surrounding immigration and the changing demographics of America.
It also raises questions about how our perceptions of beauty are shaped by cultural norms and societal values, which can shift and evolve over time.
What one generation considers beautiful, another generation might not.
Exactly. And those shifting perceptions are often influenced by factors beyond our control, like media representation, technological advancements, even economic trends.
It's a reminder that what we consider beautiful isn't necessarily inherent or fixed, but rather a product of complex social and cultural influences.
Now, on a more optimistic note, we have Sir Ronald Ross, a Nobel Prize-winning doctor.
Okay.
He had high hopes for human longevity.
How so?
He predicted that by 2025, scientific progress would push average life expectancy to 150 years.
150 years. That's more than double the current average.
It is. He believed that advancements in medicine would eventually free us from the ravages of germs and allow us to live much longer and healthier lives.
While his timeline for achieving a 150-year lifespan proved to be overly ambitious, his underlying belief in the power of science to improve human health and extend life wasn't entirely misplaced.
We've made incredible strides in understanding aging and combating age-related diseases.
That's true. But the question of whether we should strive for radical life extension remains a topic of ethical and philosophical debate.
It raises profound questions about the meaning of life, the nature of aging, and the potential social and economic consequences of significantly extending human lifespans.
These are not easy questions to answer, and they highlight the complex interplay between scientific advancements and our values and beliefs as a society.
Progress isn't always straightforward or without its challenges.
Sometimes the most difficult questions arise not from whether we can do something, but from whether we should do it.
Exactly. Now let's turn our attention to some predictions about the future of urban life.
Okay.
H. Winfield Secor, associate editor of Science and Invention magazine, had a grand vision for New York City in 2025.
What did he envision?
He imagined a metropolis dominated by towering skyscrapers dwarfing the tallest buildings of his time.
A city of skyscrapers.
Exactly. And he predicted a city teeming with airplanes and airships darkening the skies above.
It sounds like a scene straight out of a futuristic film.
It does. He even proposed a system of triple and quadruple deck streets to accommodate all this traffic.
Wow, triple-deck streets.
Yeah, with lower levels reserved for trucks and upper levels for personal vehicles. He also imagined moving sidewalks enclosed within arcades, offering protection from the elements and enhancing shopping experiences.
So basically a multi-level city with a mix of flying and ground transportation.
Exactly. While we haven't quite reached the level of urban density and aerial transportation, he envisioned his ideas resonate with contemporary discussions about urban planning, sustainable transportation, and the need to create livable and efficient cities.
It's interesting how those fundamental challenges of urban life, traffic, congestion, pollution, the need for efficient transportation persist even as the specific solutions we imagine evolve.
It speaks to the enduring nature of these urban challenges, which are often magnified by population growth, economic development, and technological advancements. The solutions we seek might change, but the underlying problems remain remarkably consistent.
Now, before we dive into some of the more quirky and humorous predictions from 1925, I'd like to touch on one that stands out for its focus on the potential for technological advancements to liberate us from mundane tasks.
You're referring to the predictions about automated household chores.
Yes, Many envisioned a future where technology would handle tasks like laundry, cooking, cleaning, freeing up time for other pursuits. Did they accurately anticipate the extent to which technology would simplify our lives in this way?
In many ways, they were remarkably prescient. We now have washing machines, dryers, dishwashers, robot vacuums, and a plethora of other appliances and gadgets designed to make household chores easier and less time-consuming.
That's true. But has this increased automation truly freed up our time as they anticipated?
That's a good point. While technology has certainly made many tasks easier, it has also created new demands on our time and attention.
We're constantly bombarded with information expected to be reachable 24/7, and often feel pressured to be more productive than ever before.
It's a bit of a paradox. We have more tools and technologies to simplify our lives, but we also face greater pressures and expectations.
It seems like finding a balance between convenience and mindful living is an ongoing challenge.
Absolutely. And that challenge is likely to become even more pronounced as technology continues to advance at a rapid pace. It's something we should be mindful of as we navigate the ever-evolving landscape of the 21st century.
Now, are you ready for some of the more lighthearted and humorous predictions from 1925? They offer a fascinating glimpse into the cultural humor of the time.
I'm all ears. Let's hear what tickled their funny bones a century ago.
So what kind of humor were they indulging in back in 1925?
Well, one quip suggested that while horse-drawn vehicles might disappear, jackass-driven automobiles would still be around in 100 years.
Jackass-driven automobiles.
It's a humorous jab at human folly, implying that no matter how much technology advances, we'll always find ways to make mistakes.
I guess some things never change. There will always be those who drive us crazy on the roads, regardless of the vehicles we're using.
Another joke celebrated the prediction of detachable marriage yokes,
Detachable marriage yokes.
a tongue-in-cheek reference to the rising popularity of divorce at the time.
It's a rather cynical take on marriage, but it reflects the changing social norms around relationships in the early 20th century.
Divorce was becoming more common, and this joke highlights the anxieties and uncertainties surrounding those shifts.
And then there's this memorable anecdote about a fictional scenario where the United States had just elected its first woman president.
Oh, I remember that one.
When asked about the impact on his home life, the husband sighs and says, "My only regret is that I have but one wife to give to my country,"
Classic political humor.
playing on the traditional gender roles and the perceived threat to male authority posed by a woman in a position of power.
These humorous predictions, while seemingly lighthearted, offer a glimpse into the cultural anxieties and preoccupations of the 1920s. They shed light on how people viewed social change, gender roles, and the evolving political landscape.
It's a reminder that humor can be a powerful tool for social commentary, allowing us to address sensitive topics and challenge conventional thinking in a way that's both engaging and thought-provoking.
Before we wrap up our journey through these 1925 predictions, I want to highlight one that stands out for its youthful perspective.
Oh, whose perspective?
A poem written by Vivian Galk, an eighth grader from Wisconsin who imagined the world of 2025 for a class assignment.
It's always fascinating to hear how younger generations envision the future. What did young Vivian predict?
Her poem paints a picture of a world transformed by technology. She envisioned radios becoming mere toys, movies becoming obsolete, and airplanes becoming commonplace even for the poorest individuals.
It's incredible to think about how rapidly technology was advancing even back then. They were already witnessing the rise of radios and airplanes, and she extrapolated those trends to imagine even greater transformations.
She also predicted a world where scientific advancements would cure almost any disease and wonder foods and beverages would surpass our current culinary delights.
A futuristic utopia of sorts.
In a way, she even foresaw a future where household chores would be completely automated, leaving wives with nothing to do but rest.
A world without housework. That certainly sounds appealing. It's interesting how she focused on the potential for technology to liberate us from drudgery and create more leisure time.
However, she also expressed a hint of apprehension about this future, concluding her poem by saying, "I hope I'm not living a century from now, for my dullness would move me to tears."
She was worried about becoming bored.
It seems she sensed that too much progress and convenience might lead to a loss of wonder and excitement in life.
It's a thought-provoking sentiment. As we've discussed throughout this deep dive, technology can be both a blessing and a curse. It can simplify our lives and connect us in ways we never thought possible, but it can also lead to isolation, information overload, and a sense of detachment from the real world.
It highlights the importance of finding a balance of harnessing the benefits of technology without losing sight of the things that truly matter: human connection, creativity, purpose, and a sense of wonder.
Looking back at these predictions from 1925 has been a fascinating journey. It's shown us that while predicting the future with perfect accuracy is impossible, we can gain valuable insights by examining how people in the past envisioned the world to come.
Their hopes, fears, and aspirations shape their predictions, and those predictions in turn reveal a lot about their present.
So as we stand here in 2025, a century after these predictions were made, we have the opportunity to reflect on what they got right, what they got wrong, and what lessons we can learn from their insights.
And as we look ahead to the next century, it's our turn to envision the world we want to create.
What kind of future will we build? What challenges will we face? And how will we use our knowledge and ingenuity to shape a better world for generations to come?
Those are the questions that should guide our actions, our innovations, and our aspirations.
The future is full of possibilities, both promising and perilous. It's up to us to navigate those possibilities with wisdom, compassion, and a sense of shared responsibility for the planet and all its inhabitants.
On that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive into these 1925 visions of 2025. We hope you found this exploration of the past and its implications for the future as thought-provoking as we did.
Don't forget to subscribe, like, and leave a comment below with your thoughts on these 1925 predictions and your own visions for the future.
Thank you for listening to the VSOW, not a podcast, but a YouTube channel.